Thank you again, everybody, for coming. That was a very exciting showing of Manos, The Hands of Fate. How many of you? I'm sure that everyone here has seen the movie all the way through before, correct? And how many of us here?
One sitting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how many of us here were involved in the restoration, donated to the restoration? Or there's me, there's Derek, and is that it? I thought there were more. Jackey, thank you again for being here.
Thanks
Yeah.
for inviting me.
Yeah, sure. Tell us. We'll play the movie in a short while, and we'll talk about it as it plays. But tell the story briefly about how you got involved in the film, how your dad told you about it.
Yeah, so my dad was invited to be part of this film, and then he came to me, 6 years old, and he said, honey, I'm doing a movie, and they need a little girl, and would you like to be that little girl? And I was really shy and quiet, and I was like, I don't know. And he goes, honey, that's okay. It's okay. If you don't want to do this, we can just get another little girl. I was like, in my head, no. There ain't no other little girl gonna be hanging out with my daddy this summer. So I said yes. And that's how it happened.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, that's the story.
Yeah.
You asked.
And your dad knew Hal Warren from local theater.
Yeah, my dad was our dad. My sister's here. It's funny. I've never had her here, so it's funny. You know, it's like our dad was, he was the rock star of local community theater. And we, in El Paso, they had a theater called the Festival Theater. And it really was high quality. They were really good. In fact, I'm trying to think who that was. They brought a guest director in for a while. I mean, they raised money and they did a lot of great things. So my dad, over his career, he did so many parts. Like, he was one of my favorites. And as a child, I went to many of the shows. You know, I would watch not just the rehearsals, but I was there for many of the shows. I loved the theater so much. And so, like, he played R.P. McMurphy in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which was probably one of his best roles because he could relate to it so well. My dad was suicidal. He played King Arthur in Camelot, and he had never sang publicly before. He did this beautiful job. Let's see, Camelot. Give me some of those. I don't know.
Some of the standards.
What's that? Man of La Mancha. Yeah. He played Don Quixote in Man of La Mancha. So he did leads. He always did leads. And then John Reynolds, who played Torgo, was in many plays with my dad. And I can't tell you his roles because I was such a young child, but he was really good. And he and my dad were friends, and John Reynolds was suicidal, and that was part of their friendship, their communication. So John Reynolds, actually, he committed suicide. He shot himself in the head 1 month after his 27th birthday, and exactly 1 month, and exactly 1 month before the premiere of Manos, The Hands of Fate. So he never, ever got to see it. My mother made the costumes, the wives' dresses, and the master's robe, and my little Debbie dress. But that was already in my wardrobe because my mom made all my clothes back then. But I remember them laying out that black fabric and the hands on their living room floor and figuring out this costume. And then I remember her making, because budget, the wives' gauzy dresses, and then they presented them to these 6 women who were modeling students at the local Mannequin Manor modeling school, which I went to later.
You did? I didn't know that. No, I did not know that.
For poise classes, learned how to walk. Because it wasn't just modeling school, it was poise and...
Yeah.
So anyway, where was I going with that?
The dresses.
The dresses. So my mom designed the dress and created the dresses. And you have to know, too, that my parents paid for all the materials, for the fabric and everything. And I honestly don't know, and I don't think they were ever reimbursed.
Yeah. But they presented the dresses to the models.
Yes, so they presented the dresses to models, and the models were like, So the young women, collectively on their own, changed their underwear to like the huge granny panties and the biggest bras they could find. I mean, they tried to cover themselves as much as possible. And then my mom, our mom, she added in the red strip, which almost makes it creepier.
Yeah. Yeah.
But all it is, and I remember that. I remember that. My mom bought like a roll of elastic. And she made these little elastic waistbands for each of the wives, and then she cut a big piece of red cloth, and it came up and went under, through the crotch, and over. And that was the chastity kind of, that was one way to help the women feel a little more comfortable. So anyway, they went into it with a lot of trepidation, but they did it.
And Torgo was wearing your father's clothes.
Yeah, so the suit he was wearing was actually my dad's welding coveralls, which he wore when he made all the welding stuff in Manos. I mean, those were his work coveralls. The hat Torgo wore was my dad's desert scavenging hat. It was his hat.
Okay.
And because I remember as a kid going with my dad, we would just drive out into the desert to look for stuff. That's why my art is what it is. I reclaim things because that's what my dad did. Our living room was paneled in old wood from falling down shacks that we found out in the desert. A lot of the furniture in our house was built with this stuff. I mean, those were the other things he did. He did everything. Everything.
And all of the sculptures in the film, the metal sculptures, the hand sculptures on the mantle, the
all
face,
of it.
all of it was your dad's work.
Yeah, and I am so much like him. Like I said, this is what I do. I see 100-year-old doors laying on burn piles. I'm like, excuse me, can I have that? I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I cut it into panels, and I got this shit stacked up.
When you wrote your book.
Yes.
What's the title of the book? What's the
Growing Up with Manos, the Hands of
Fate. You did a lot of research about finding the people who were in the film and who made the film, and you discovered that Hal Warren, the writer and director of the film, that his name was originally Weinstein.
Oh, Harold Weinstein. At some point, I don't even remember. I got to go read my own book. But yes, I remember something about that.
Yeah.
But I
he came-
can't tell you
yeah,
why.
what I recall in
History.
right.
Time in history,
Right.
and the Jewish, because he
Right.
was.
Right.
He was Jewish, and that was not a popular time to be Jewish.
In Texas in
Or
1966.
anywhere.
Yeah, well,
I mean, a lot of places. Not
Yeah.
not anywhere, but a lot of places. So yes, I
that was one
forgot
of the
about
more
that.
interesting things that I found.
Warren, yes.
Yeah, you've talked before. You were talking earlier tonight, and people have talked about it plenty of time online and in the media about how he was a fertilizer salesman.
Yeah.
But he wasn't doing that before this film, was he? That came later,
No,
right?
actually, that's right. Yeah, because when he created this film, he was actually an insurance salesman, and then later he went into bulk fertilizer sales in Texas for farms and such. But that's a popular story. He's a fertilizer salesman in Texas. But yeah, initially he was selling insurance, and he was also an actor in the Festival Theater. He did a lot of secondary roles, and that's how he knew my dad and John Reynolds. And so, he wrote his film, and he decided he's going to make his film. He looked around, and he's like, who do I know? Of course, like we all do. And he picked these people for these parts.
Okay. Tell us about Diane Marie, how she was found and how she got cast.
Let's see. So
Can you
Diane,
remember?
if I can remember. So Diane Marie was also, she was living in El Paso, and she was going to the she had been part of the Mannequin Manor modeling school. And he saw her, and he just thought that she would be great for the lead, and she had never acted before, and she was reluctant, but she agreed, and she just walked into this part having no idea.
And she was 21, right?
She was very young.
Yeah.
He was quite a bit older,
Yeah, she certainly
obviously.
she certainly comes across as more mature in the film than the 21-year-old. I mean,
She does, actually. She did. I thought she did an amazing job
Yeah.
for someone who had never acted before.
yeah.
I thought she did a great job. I mean, it was so great reconnecting with her so many years later to have her come into our sequel film. And yeah, it was pretty cool spending some time with her, like, all those years later.
Speaking of the sequel, Manos Returns, right? The director, Tanya Atomic, is here.
Yes.
If anyone has questions for Tanya about Manos Returns, please ask them. I'm sure Tanya will be happy to answer your questions. All right, let's turn on the movie,
Okay.
and we'll talk about it as it goes.
Cool.
When you did a watch through of the movie with Tanya and me a couple of months ago, you were looking at this shot of the what's the name of the spot? What is it? The
Scenic
Scenic
Drive.
Scenic
is
Drive.
That
Right.
yeah, the road around the mountain
And
that
it's-
overlooks El Paso.
It's still there in El
Yeah.
Paso and virtually unchanged. It's almost entirely
I bet.
unchanged.
There's
Yeah.
no reason they would change it. I mean, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's what it is.
You were saying when we were watching it before, you were saying that your house was so close to it that you could climb up to it from your backyard.
Yeah, so you can't see it from here, but we lived on North Cotton Street, and it went up. We're just 3 miles from the bridge going over the Rio Grande River into Juarez, Mexico. I mean, we literally lived 3 miles from the border. You could see, I lived in a house that was built in 1886. And you could see, at night, you could see the lights of El Paso, and you see the dark line of the river, and you could see the yellow lights, the different wattage over the river, right?
Interesting.
Yeah. So where we lived, up this hill, was our backyard went out, and then there was a gully, and it went up the mountain. And Scenic Drive, that road was up there, not too far. And as a kid, I was kind of, I mean, we're the only white family in our neighborhood, so it's reverse. I had a lot of friends. I'm not saying that, but there was some reverse discrimination, and I was a lonely kid. And I spent a lot of time on that mountain. I love nature. So I would find stones, which, yeah, I got pockets of stones.
You got a pocket full of rocks, yeah.
I got a pocket full of rocks. So, but I've been doing that my whole life. And so I would climb up there on my own. And Scenic Drive was just, it went around the mountain. It was up from our backyard. And so I would climb up there and just kind of hang out up there on the mountain.
And the convertible was your family car?
The second convertible, I realized,
convertible.
The second one, the one that Bernie and Joyce are like kissing in, the kissing car.
Yeah.
I think that was our car.
That was your car?
Yeah, that was our family car.
That wasn't Bernie's?
And I think this was, no, the kissing car, the Triumph,
yeah,
that was Bernie's.
That was Bernie's car, yeah.
The people that come at the end. But, the women at the end.
That was your family car?
That was our family. I think this was Hal's car,
Hal?
the first convertible, because that was, honest to God, too nice for our house. It wasn't our car. But Hal was doing pretty good, you know?
Yeah. Well, insurance, I mean.
Yeah,
the
driving.
Yeah, was what Ben Salovey says. Ben Salovey did the restoration. He did the film restoration.
Mm-hmm.
You can get his restored version on DVD and Blu-ray, by the way, at manosinhd.com.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I believe I first heard it from him, that he said he believed that all these driving scenes were intended to have credits over them, and that's why there's nothing there.
Yes, that makes sense.
It does make sense.
Yes, because why?
Yeah,
why?
Because why?
But even in the credits at the end, he had to inflate them by making up names and changing names. Like he called my dad Thomas Ivy. At one point, he called my mother Jacqueline. That was never her name. I'm named after my mother, Jackey. That's it. Or Jackey. But she was listed as Jacqueline. It's like he made up a lot of names to make it look like the credits, which is really crazy because if that was where the credits were supposed to go, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, no more said.
And here's the first makeout scene, and as you pointed out, Bernie is wearing his wedding ring,
and she has no wedding ring.
You're right. She doesn't.
I mean, it'd be okay if he had one, but she doesn't. See, I mean, that's the point. Both or none, right?
Yeah. And she had a cast on her leg. And so these scenes were created to give her a role.
Because she was one of the Mannequin Manor modeling students that was promised a role in the film. None of them knowing that it was without pay. And but then she had an accident. She broke her leg like right before filming. So Hal added that extra those scenes in to keep her in the movie so that she could get paid, which she never did, or any of the women for that matter.
Wait, you did get paid though, right? Or
yes, no, I did. The only two that got paid were me and the Doberman. He got a 50-pound bag of cheap dog food. And I got my first bicycle, red, with training wheels. So I learned to ride my bike
Because of Manos.
because of Manos.
It was the will of Manos.
It was the will. It was the will of Manos.
You were joking before about how you and other people have pointed out that Hal Warren wrote this part for himself, and yet he's like he comes across as just really hostile and really
Yeah.
really dismissive of his wife.
He's trying to write himself as the hero, but it comes across as being actually who he is.
Oh.
Oops. Sorry. Who I remember who he was.
Right.
And I was a child.
Okay. All right. Well, talk about your experience with Hal. What exactly do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, my experience with him was on set. He was, I was more like a prop or a puppy. And I just felt like he would like say something, and he'd like pat me on the head or move me here or there. You know, it was definitely not a personable relationship. And as a 6-year-old, I was a smart kid. I just remember that the things Hal did, as a 6-year-old kid, I'm like, that's weird. You know, I mean, stuff like that. And but he was pretty dismissive, and I had the very distinct impression that he had no idea how to deal with children. I was clear on that, and it wasn't until many years later that I realized that I found out he already had a kid. And then he had another kid, and that's a whole nother story. But yeah, so he was a dad. But to me, I was his prop. Yeah. I just kind of felt like he'd pick me up and put me over here or there, and you know.
Yeah. Well, you did encounter him during a 2-week period, which must have been really tense for him, directing a film and not knowing what he was doing.
Yeah. And having a 6-year-old child to deal with, except that 6-year-old child had her dad on set. I mean, it wasn't like he had to really deal with the kid. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. I was never there without my father. Yeah. Ever.
Yeah. And this was like you alluded to before. This was your time to spend the summer with your dad.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's the first appearance of Torgo. And a thing about the restoration is the color, how great the color is. You can see the vivid yellow screen door here, which none of us could ever see before.
Right.
And the blues in everybody's shirts, and Diane's flower dress. All of this was almost shocking at how great the color is.
I mean, the costuming is actually done quite well. The color. And again, I have to give my dad and my parents credit for that.
Well, tell us, talk about John Reynolds a bit and how you remember him.
Yeah, John Reynolds, he was a sweet, sweet guy, so young, and I'm looking at him now, and it just trips me out because my youngest son is turning 25 years old tomorrow. And John Reynolds was 27 when he killed himself, when he did this film. He lived just down the street from us, like 2 blocks, and I remember where he lived, and he and my dad were friends. My dad watched out after him because they were both suicidal. That was one of their connections, the theater and who they were emotionally, and they became close friends. And I remember where John lived, just 2 blocks down the street. We'd go visit him sometimes. I mean, my dad would take me. So on set, He was such a sweet man, and you can see from the film he wasn't very tall. I think he was like 5'7". He wasn't a tall man, but his father was a general in the army, and John just didn't fit that picture, is what I understand. And he always felt like he came up short, no pun intended, in his family. And he got into theater, and I don't think the rest of his family understood that either. And he was really quite good. He did many roles in plays with my dad, and they support each other. So John did this, and then he when he turned 27, about this time, and on exactly 1 month after his 27th birthday, he shot himself in the head. He ended his life, and exactly 1 month after that was the premiere of Manos. So he missed it.
Yeah.
But when I think back, the way that premiere went,
Yeah.
he would not have wanted to be there.
It wouldn't have helped him.
It wouldn't have helped him.
Yeah.
There's very little chance that somebody like that would have lasted long enough to see where it went.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry he didn't.
Yeah. When I interviewed your dad, I asked him if John were alive today, would he appreciate the attention that the film has gotten? And if you recall, you were there.
Mm-hmm.
Before I'd even finished asking the question, your dad was saying no. You're saying no. He was very serious.
He was a serious actor. I don't think he would have ever really appreciated this.
Yeah.
I don't think he would have wanted to be known this way.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
And my dad was right. But wow, what a tragic ending to such a beautiful life.
Yeah. You've people have joked many times, and you've said many times. You've talked about him being on LSD while filming this. You think that's actually true? That's actually correct?
I believe so. Because I remember when he lived down the street from us, and these are conversations that my dad and I had later, after I became a teenager. He's certainly not talking to a 7-year-old about this stuff. But, I mean, I was very aware of where John lived and that they were friends, and I'd see him around. But I learned later that, LSD is the 70s, the 60s. Late 60s, 70s, experimentation, and John really went that direction. My dad did too, a few times, but John took it much farther, and as I understand it, he was definitely high on something. But I think a couple times it probably was at least small doses of LSD. It was just, that was the drug. That was what you did then, to cope.
All right. Okay, back to the movie. Another thing that you said during our watch through a couple of months ago, when you saw Torgo bringing the luggage in, you gasped out loud and said that you have that luggage.
Yeah, I was looking at that. I think I still have some of it, but I do recognize it. There's so many things in this film I recognize, like the quilt on the bed. My grandmother made that. I gotta like, where is it now? But yeah, that luggage I did, and it's probably still somewhere. Some of it, the little case, the little hand case. Yeah, I remember that very distinctly.
And during the movie, you and your sister were talking about the big trunk in Torgo's room.
Yeah. So my dad died 3 years ago, and And I remember that trunk. It was upstairs in his room, and it was full of our family pictures, like generations, my great-grandparents. And as far as I know, besides maybe some cousins over in Brownsville, Texas, I'm the only person who can identify the people in those pictures. And when my dad died, his wife said very clearly that I would get nothing. None of his art, none of that. Well, she just died. So on Friday the 13th, oh my God. Okay, sorry. Wow. So now there's a chance.
Okay.
We have a younger sister, much younger, who's a half-sister, and she has reached out to us. So we are reconnecting. And I am really hoping that I get those pictures and that we as a family get some of our father's artwork.
Talk about the furniture in the blue room.
I have to?
In the blue room.
Oh my God.
Well, most of the furniture was from your house, correct?
Yes. But that couch was already in the house. I mean, there's a few things that were in the bed was actually still in the house, but we put my grandma's quilt over it. I remember that bed. It was like really wiggly, weird. It was a weird bed. But yeah, that couch is so disgusting. And I just can't believe I just can't believe that anybody said, yeah, hey, little child, put your face down on this, like, stained, or, oh, my God, what are those stains? Ugh. But honestly, I think that's one of the reasons why I have such a strong constitution. I have been exposed to so much as a child.
All right, and you've pointed out many times that the books on the shelves, which again came from your home, that the books on the shelves are turned with their backs to the wall.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, but when you first pointed it out, I thought that was weird.
Yeah.
But then I'm thinking, when they first started putting the books on the shelves, Hal and the cameraman must have looked at it and said, "We can't have all these modern books showing."
Titles.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't want the titles.
Yeah, there can't be
shown.
like a blazing yellow copy of "I'm Okay, You're Okay."
Except have you seen though? Look, those even the ones they're showing, these are old books.
Right,
I'm telling you, no book on that shelf is so. But perhaps he was worried about copyright. Perhaps,
I can't,
but I'm telling you, there was no book in there that he could have had a problem with. I can't
imagine copyright would have been on his mind.
He just, who knows?
Well, that is odd then, if those are all antiques.
They are. They're old books. Even the ones that, I mean, you can tell they're old.
Yeah.
like dictionaries and historical information. I mean, nothing anybody could argue about.
Yeah. Well, all through the viewings of the film that I've had with you, all through it, you're pointing out that you witness all these various scenes, like the women fighting, and how you were concerned about their dresses getting dirty. What are some of the standout memories of being there and seeing what was being filmed? The filming was only like 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, it didn't take long at all. I mean, it was quick.
Yeah. Talk about some of your standout memories of the things that you saw being.
I remember like just hanging out, and I remember John Reynolds sitting with me. I don't remember what we talked about, but he really connected with me. He felt very comfortable with me as opposed to some of the other people. I was just somebody he could hang with, you know, and I really appreciated that because I knew him. It wasn't like that's the first time we met, you know. He lived down the street. I knew him. And then just knowing what was going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
That was really cool to see how the sets. I remember being a little kid going, I know how a movie's made, you know. Not that I did. It's a bad movie, but, you know. But I was 6 years old.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? And then just, just being there. And the wives, they were so cute. I mean, they're all like in their early 20s, and they got this little 6-year-old girl there, and they were just loving on me like I was their little sister. You know, I really enjoyed
cute.
that.
I hadn't heard you say that before.
Yeah, I felt like they were just loving on me.
You know, you can see that in that photo of you and your parents sitting in the theater, sitting in the cinema. You can see the women looking at you with big smiles on their faces. Looking at your dress and your hair and.
Yeah, they were so sweet. These young women, they had no idea what they got themselves into. I mean, they had to band together, you know, and hold on to whatever they could. They're like, we're out in the desert half naked. What the hell is going on? We're not getting paid. I mean, that had to be weird.
Weren't there some of them driving over from like Santa Fe, New Mexico, and like taking really long drives to didn't I hear that somewhere?
Not that I know of, because as far as I know, they were all students at the downtown El Paso Mannequin Manor Modeling School.
Does that ring a bell, Tanya? Somebody saying that for each shooting they were driving over from. I heard that somewhere.
I don't remember that. I don't remember that.
But you say that while researching your book, you did locate some of these women.
Yeah. So I found the head wife, the blonde one, whose name I can't recall right now, and I actually found her and connected with her. And she was very polite, but she just declined to. She didn't. I get it. Yeah. And then another one, I found two definitively, and the other one's name is Isela Garcia, and I'm still trying to figure out exactly which
one she was.
It's like there's one or two that I think I know who she is. She's very sweet, and honestly, she called me. We keep in touch occasionally, and I hadn't returned her last phone call. I feel so terrible. So I'm going to be calling her this week.
Great.
And try to get that defined and such. Yeah.
And the one mystery that you ended up solving that everybody was wondering about, because Ben Solovey and I talked about this many times, was that the last big mystery of the film was where the music came from. And there were no clues at all about who had recorded the music, who had composed it, but you found these people. Talk about that, if you could.
If I can remember. So the singer, Forgetting You and Love Inside This Magic Circle, her name is Nikki Mathis, and I found her. And she's this amazing black woman. She's this amazing lady, and we got her to re-record those songs for our sequel film, Manos Returns. And like 50 years later, she still sounds amazing. Yeah. She's amazing.
And she still performs, right?
I don't know if she's still performing, but she was several years ago. Yeah. She does jazz, mostly jazz.
The thing that I find so funny is that she was a mystery. Nobody could find her, and it turns out she was on Facebook the whole time, and she had Manos listed in her credits.
But no, that can't be. That
didn't she?
Not before I connected with her.
Okay.
But that's funny because I don't know that. I haven't seen that. I need to go find that. But no, it wasn't before. It couldn't have been before I found her because she was not connecting with it before that time.
Okay. Okay, that's what I thought.
Like when I wrote my book.
Uh-huh.
It was when I wrote, not when we did Manos Returns. I found her when I was writing my book.
Okay, all right. And the other musicians, you did find some of them, correct?
Yeah. I'm telling you, memory is a weird thing.
Yeah.
God, I did, and I can't remember.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well,
I did.
as I recall from your book, and it's been a while since I read it. They were just some local session musicians that Hal had met, and all the music is original. There's no.
Those guys wrote it all.
Right.
Yeah.
And all they had was a copy of the script that Hal gave them, and they just made up some stuff that they thought kind of sounded like what might be for some of these scenes. And
That's
then we ended up with this amazing, unique soundtrack. Because I think the most unique thing about this film is the soundtrack.
One of the best things about this film is the soundtrack. The music is good. There's some good music in there.
Yeah, it's so loungy and weirdly inappropriate. And,
right. Love inside this magic circle.
Yeah.
Forgetting you.
Yeah.
You know, those are great songs.
They are great songs. Yeah. So anyway, Jackey did solve the mystery, and it's in her book.
I did a lot of research, and again, I'm so grateful that I did this when I did it, because as I get older, I'm definitely losing memory. I've noticed that a lot. There's so many things I can't remember in life, and it's so wonderful to have it down like that and have done that research, because that's what happened, and I wrote it when I remembered it, and when I could find these people, and while they were still alive. Because there's people like Bernie Rosenblum, who's the kissing guy in the car, and he was the cameraman, and he's gone. Bob Guidry, the cameraman, is gone. I mean, I've been thinking about this lately. It's like for cons and for Manos especially, but for conventions, I'm it. There's nobody left. There's nobody left to talk about it. And it's only because I was 6 years old. Right?
Right. Yeah.
So if anybody wants to know about Manos, I'm it.
Well, it's a good thing that you heard the call of Manos and have taken up the mantle.
I did, and it's a weird, like a really kind of odd reason that I did. It was that my dad's second marriage, his wife was so obtrusive. Oh, my sister's laughing. Yes, obtrusive in our relationship that for some really not some weird reason. So when Manos started taking off, I would come up with reason like interviews. I would interview with people, and I would want my dad to be there, and she would allow that. So Manos became the only advocated way that he and I could have a relationship for the last few years of his life. And because of that, Manos Returns happened, our film, and just so many things, interviews and opportunities for my dad and I to spend time together, and for him to see his grandchildren. And so Manos is way more than a bad movie to our family.
Yeah. Before I forget, Tanya,
Yes.
right, the title of the next film, The Call of Manos. Okay, talk about how Manos was rediscovered, how have you spent so much time looking for it and not finding it?
Yeah, so Manos happened in 1966. And in my memory as a child, it was like the best summer of my life as a child. Got to spend it with my dad, being the only kid. It was just an amazing time. And then the premiere happened, and it was supposed to run for 2 weeks, but the premiere night, we were laughed out of the theater, pretty much. And the theater canceled the rest of the 2-week run. So only show one night to great fanfare, and then it was gone. And so I grew up having all these, I hung on to these memories, and I grew up, as I got older and into high school, I started looking for it. I always told my friends stories about it. Growing up, I was in this movie with my dad, So I tell the stories.
But there was no evidence.
But there's no evidence. So I go through high school and all this stuff, and I'm in theater, and then 27 years go by. 27 years. And I'm married, and I have a young son, and living in Northern California. My dad's living on the coast of Oregon, in Lincoln City, and he calls me up when I think, honestly, beginning of January. I almost had the date. It was crazy. January 1993, and he's working in Lincoln City as a handyman. He's doing handyman work, and he loved Mystery Science Theater, and he'd watch it. And he was one Sunday, or the first week of January 1993, he was watching Mystery Science Theater and dozing off in his easy chair. And then he heard some familiar music. So he opened his eyes and he saw himself. So he was in horrid fascination. He watched the whole film with the riffing, of course. And then he called me. And he said, I remember this. He said, "You'll never believe what I just saw on television." And of course it was over. And this is not YouTube. This is 1993. You can't push a button and go back and look. So, but it was on Comedy Central. And Comedy Central had an 800 number in the right-hand bottom corner of their screen. So I immediately turned on the TV and I called that phone number. I didn't know what else to do. And this young man named Matthew answered the phone, and I said, "You just showed this film that I have been looking for my whole life. My whole family was part of this. Is there any way I can get a copy?" And he says, "What was the name of the film?" So I told him, Manos, The Hands of Fate. The line went dead. I thought he hung up on me. It was silent for several seconds. It seemed like a long time. It was probably just 3 seconds. And he goes, "Oh my God, are you Debbie?" My character's name. How is this possible? I was shocked. I'm looking at the phone going, this is not possible. So then we talked, and he says, "Oh, wow." He goes, "That is our favorite bad movie here in the HBO offices." He goes, "I just had it on my desk last week. Yes, I will send you a copy." So he made a bootleg VHS copy, which I still have, and he put it in the mail and he sent it to me, and I plugged it in. I watched it by myself, and
It must have been awful.
I had so much peace come over me that I found it. I finally found it. And so then I put it in its little case, and I put it in my bookshelf, and I was like, I'm okay. I'm free. And then, and then a little time went by, and Mystery Science Theater does their Turkey Day Awards every year. And it was like a year, in the next couple of years, I can't remember when, but they titled it as their favorite worst movie. Mm-hmm. It was listed as the worst movie ever made and Mystery Science Theater's favorite bad movie. And I don't know. It's crazy. It's crazy. And thank God my dad was alive to experience some of this. Yeah. Thank God.
Yeah, yeah.
Or thank Manos. Sorry.
Right.
Be appropriate.
Yeah. I thought
and there he is. He's so handsome. Look at him. So young.
I thought of, where did the design for the cape come from, by the way? Did your parents just make it up?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember them laying this fabric out on the living room floor and cutting out the hands. I remember them creating it. Yeah. But, yeah, they made it up. It was totally there.
Yeah. A friend of mine watched about half of this a few days ago. He'd never seen Manos at all.
Okay.
He's heard about it, but he got most of the way through the film, and then he said to me, "Oh, those are hands."
Oh, it took him a while. Yeah. Well, he doesn't speak Spanish, obviously. Manos, hands of fate. That's redundant. Oh, and it's just a little side thing is the dog, Shanka, the Doberman.
Right.
His name is, our family is of, we're of the Osage tribe. Mm-hmm. And from what my family understood was the word Shanka, which is actually pronounced more like Shonga. But Shanka, the way we spelled it, we named the Doberman that name that in Osage literally translates to dog.
Okay.
So Shanka, dog, Manos, hands. I mean, it's a very redundant film.
Do you remember right after the work on the restoration started, when there was all the furor online? Because that's when the modern Manos craze really took off. Was when Ben discovered that print. Yeah. And it wasn't even the print. That was a film right out of the camera that he discovered.
Know. It was the original. It
was film positive, not even a negative. It was film positive.
How does anybody find that?
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Yeah. I really enjoyed reading the account of how he opened up that can that said Fingers of Fate on it. It didn't even say Manos, it said Fingers of Fate.
It had the original title, yeah.
And after, holding it up and looking at it, and after a few moments realizing that this was the film that was in the camera, not even a... But and that's why it looks so good. That's why he's able to get all this color out of it.
Yeah, it's
brilliant. Let's come over here a little bit. Okay. But do you remember when we were talking on Facebook, and there was a guy who said, because you said that Manos showed once in El Paso, and they cut off they didn't have they cut off the rest of the 2-week show. There was a guy who said that he saw it at a drive-in in Georgia.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember him saying that. I'm like, I have no idea how that happened. I have no idea. I never connected in a way to get more information. How is that possible?
I don't know.
I've heard that from people. I've seen that from people online.
Occasionally, really?
They did a small drive-in run, and a couple people had seen it.
That's trippy.
That
makes
bizarre,
sense in a way.
First place I saw it was a small town drive-in.
When?
Wait, when?
When?
You're too young.
I went with my dad before they shut it down, and they showed all of their worst movies.
But what year is this? This is after 1993.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That was after it was discovered, though.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see it? Was it a Mystery Science Theater version?
Yeah, it was
Oh,
all.
okay.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
But it was their celebration when they shut down
Gotcha.
the drive-in.
Okay.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah.
I was just thinking last week, there's an old drive-in between my town and the next town, and I just was like, man, we gotta bring back drive-in. Wasn't drive-in cool? I mean, I don't know if you know, I remember as a kid being in the back of the car and my parents, and then I'd fall asleep and I'd wake up and I had the
Yeah.
blankets and
Yeah.
oh my God.
My first memory of seeing a film was 2001: A Space Odyssey at a drive-in.
Wow.
The thing is, I must have been like 3 years old. I didn't remember what film it was,
Okay.
but I dreamed these images all of my life and had no idea where these images came from.
That's
And then when I was in junior high, I sat down to watch the film one Thanksgiving. And at the
Okay.
end of the film, when the astronaut is in the hotel room, I stood up out of my chair and I was like, I've been dreaming this. I thought I invented this. And then the whole thing with the space baby and everything, I was like, it's all there.
It's such a great movie.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's cool.
Yeah.
You thought it was your life.
Yeah, I thought
mean, that's neat. That's really cool.
Science fiction always stuck with me when I was a kid. Memories of science fiction
Me
always stuck.
too. I grew up reading Isaac Asimov and oh man,
Yeah.
I read
Okay.
a lot, and it was all science fiction.
Well, let's wrap things up here.
Yeah.
There's one more thing I want to ask you about. How much can you tell us about Curse of Bigfoot?
Oh, okay. Curse of Bigfoot's way worse than
It's a lot
Manos.
worse than Manos.
Way worse. In fact, I don't think I've actually ever watched the whole film. I just
Before we go any
can't.
further, I think it's so amazing that you were not just in
How is that possible?
You were not just in one of the worst films of the 20th century. You were in two of the worst films
How
of
is
the
that
20th century.
possible? In
Yeah.
completely different places.
Yeah.
So I'm in high school
Uh-huh.
in Southern California. Manos is in El Paso. My parents divorced. Dad moves to Southern California. He's suicidal.
Right.
I go to live with him as a teenager with the intention of keeping him alive. That was my intention as a teenager. And so I'm at this high school, and I end up with this amazing high school, Montclair High School, and with this incredible drama department. And my drama teacher, Tim Tackett, was at that time a 3rd degree black belt in karate. He is now like 80 years old, and he's like a 5th or 6th degree.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a cool guy.
Okay.
And so he was our drama teacher. He would start every drama class with Tai Chi to get us grounded. I love that man. Where was I going? Oh, so yeah. So he had a friend in Los Angeles that was working on this film that he had found that was an old film, like from the 60s.
The 50s, I think.
The
actually.
50s, old, yeah, it was.
And
It was like
unfinished.
An unfinished film about Bigfoot from the late 50s, and this guy was going to finish it, and so he was friends with our drama teacher. So our drama teacher had our drama class come into the school on a Saturday to do this one scene, just one scene. And so we're all in there. And anyway, that one scene happened to be one of the finishing scenes for The Curse of Bigfoot, which is way worse than Manos. Oh, God, it's horrible. And a funny thing is, though, the still shot where you see me, the kid next to me, what was his name? David, I can't remember his last name, but he was one of the kids in the Bad News Bears. He's one of the baseball kids in the Bad News Bears. And he came to our high school that year as a new student. And he was, I'm sorry, David, but he was like, I was in the Bad News Bears. I'm an actor. You know, I mean, it was just kind of like that. So it's really hilarious because in that one scene where you see me, he's sitting right next to me. There you go.
Okay. Well, if you all haven't seen Curse of Bigfoot, you should you should give it a look.
No.
Yeah. The
I
riff.
haven't seen that.
Me neither. It's horrible.
No, I gotta see it now.
Oh, God.
It's Riff Tracks did it. Riff, right? It was
Did they?
Riff Tracks.
And that's the other thing is that Manos, Riff Tracks, and MST did Manos, and Elvira.
Elvira showed it, right?
She did. In fact, we were both guests at Crypticon Seattle.
I
What was
remember.
that? 2 years
I
ago?
remember. It was-
And she was across. I had my booth over here, my table, and she had her table across. And I was looking at her all weekend. I'm like, man, I gotta go talk to her. So I walked over there, and she had a long. I mean, there's nobody at my table. I'm like, I'm walking over there. Long line of people lined up to get autographs from her. And she had this person who was her like bodyguard, I guess. This woman who was very muscular. She was tough looking. Woman sitting next to her, I was like, so I really had to think about it. I think it was the second day that I approached her because I was like, I don't know, I'm gonna get beat up or something, you know. So I go. So the handler's here, and then she's at the end of the table, and there's this long line, and I sneak around the end of the table. Just real quick, I ditch in, and I go, Cassandra, I'm Debbie from Manos, the Hands of Fate. And she goes, and she took a sec, she like, her eye, she went, what? And she held up her hand, she goes, stop the line. She did that. She goes, stop the line. And her bodyguard was like starting to get up out of her seat when I said something. Stop the line. And she's like, come here. And she had me come around the back of the table, and I squatted down. She's like, held on to me. She goes, so tell me. And she had all these questions about Manos, and we just had this like really intense, very quick conversation while all her fans had to wait for her. I was like, thank you so much. And then we got a photograph, and I walked away.
And you traded books. You gave her your book.
We did. We traded books. I gave her my book. She gave me her book.
I remember before that weekend, you probably remember this too, Tanya. You went online and you were saying Elvira's going to be there. Should I meet her? I don't know if I should try. Do you remember that?
Oh, was I saying that beforehand?
Yeah, beforehand.
I was really...
And me and Tanya and everyone else was typing, yes. And we were
You encouraged me because I don't know if I would have had the guts to do it.
We were telling you she will know exactly who you are.
And she did.
Yeah.
That was incredible. That was one of my highlights.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, and then another one was, and he didn't necessarily know who it was, but I think it was still at Crypticon. Crazy movie. The guy in the mental hospital. Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah.
Yeah, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. My dad played the character of R.P. McMurphy on stage. And so anyway, the tall guy, the like really strange, I don't know his name. Like he's got like a I don't know, he's so strange looking. But in the movie he was like, you know, like comatose guy. Anyway, he was a guest, and I got a great picture with him too.
I also remember you telling a story how you had a really pleasant dinner with an older gray-haired man. The two of you talked, and you had a really pleasant dinner. It went on for a couple of hours with some other people. You're talking about how nice he was and everything, and people told you afterwards that was oh damn it.
See, it's not just me.
Yeah, that was Clu Gulager.
Oh, right. Yeah, I got to. He was so sweet.
And you had no idea.
I didn't know who he was. Clu Gulager. What a sweet man. He was so loving and sweet. Yeah. What's that?
Michael Berry.
Michael Berryman. Yeah. He's such an odd looking person, but he's so deeply intelligent. It's like we had this conversation and I was just so impressed and stunned by him.
Yeah. Well, all right. I think that's enough. I think we've covered
Good.
everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have
Tanya has a question.
So I heard at one time, and I don't remember from who or where, but that Hal Warren actually like went around to people and got investors for Manos and actually got money, kind of promising returns. Back to people.
I heard some about that, but I don't know have any. I think Hal promised a lot of things to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And all I know is I got a red bicycle with training wheels, and my dog got a cheap 50-pound bag of dog food. And after that, my dad and my family got none of the work that they did back. I mean, my dad got his art, but the master's robe and the painting, the master and dog painting, the things made specifically for the film were never returned to him.
I've read many times that Hal wore the master's cape at Halloween.
Every Halloween.
Yeah.
And his son wears it
Today?
to this day.
Is it true that Hal entered Diane Marie into a beauty contest without asking
her knowledge? Yes. Mm-hmm.
And she actually went. She actually went and did it.
I believe she did.
Has she told you that story?
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Come on,
tell a story. Come on,
please,
tell a story.
please. Oh, yes. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you,
Okay,
Tanya.
this is Tanya.
Tanya Atomic.
Tanya Atomic, tell us about Diane Marie and the beauty contest.
So Diane's kind of a fun, interesting person. She likes to take risks. She's a risk taker. He entered her in this contest, and she was like, "Why not?" And in fact, I actually know the story of how she got involved in the movie. She used to live in El Paso, and she'd moved away. I think she went to college or something like that, and then she'd come back to visit her family, and her car broke down, and so she was stuck in El Paso. And her friend was like, "Hey, audition for this movie," and she was like, "Why not?" And that's kind of how she got involved with Manos. So Hal thought it would be good publicity if she were in this beauty pageant, and if she won, that he was thinking that she could, so that it could be this big thing, like Miss El Paso's in our movie or whatever. And so Diane's like, she's a good sport. She's like, why not do it? So she went and did it. And so what happened was one of the questions was, do you remember this? One of the questions was like about religion.
Yes.
And she was very blatantly, like, she's a very honest person. And she was, basically, it was something about like, what do you think about religion, or what's your religion, or God, or something like that. And she basically was, flat out saying, I don't believe someone else should dictate what you think, that kind of thing. And it wasn't a sort of like politically correct at the time sort of answer, but it was she was just being honest, because that's who she is. She would never try to lie to win. That's just not her. She was just gonna say it how she feels.
Yeah.
And she did, and that was like a big no. The crowd hated it, and she did not win.
Yeah. But she would have.
She might, I think she
would've.
might have,
Yeah.
but she turned everybody against her with her answer, because she was too honest.
Did when she said that, I don't recall what, because I've read this account before, but I don't recall what the audience's reaction was. It just like silence, or
I
was
don't
there, or was it
remember.
like thunderous yelling?
I don't think it was thunderous yelling. I think it was more
It's the
awkward.
60s.
Yeah.
People, you gotta play it.
Yeah.
You gotta.
Yeah,
be-
she could tell though that people were mad.
Yeah.
And also she didn't care. She was just being honest. That's her.
Yeah.
That is her personality. She's like, "What? I'm just telling you. Ask me a question. I'm answering you." That's who she is.
That is funny.
So yeah. So she didn't win.
There? I can't help but think, could there possibly be any record of that somewhere? Anything in any newspaper clip or a recording of it, or
I never.
I mean, I would love to record. I mean, she's got great stories, and I would love to ask her that and other things. She's got amazing stories. I mean, she's met like Salvador Dali twice. She almost got kidnapped by Ted Bundy, and these things are true.
What? No, it's true.
These things are actually true.
Oh my God.
Because she lived in the town where like Ted Bundy had escaped from the police at one point out of police custody. And he went to the town that she actually lived in. And he was there for several weeks before the police actually found him. And he drove by her and tried to get her to get in his van.
Oh my God.
She was in a parking lot and she had to run away. And she actually ran away and ran to somebody's apartment and knocked on their door because he was coming after her.
Wow.
But it is 100% true. All these stories she tells are 100% true. She was a model for several years in Europe, and she did a lot of European Vogue and things like that. So that's how she met Dali and stuff. But she's so fascinating. She's amazing. But yeah, she has so many stories that you kind of go, but no,
right.
they're 100% true. I mean, there's things that you can verify that enough that it's like, nope, I believe everything she says.
Right.
Oh, yay.
Okay.
That's my Diane story.
All right. Let's end with that. Thank you, Tanya, and thank you again, Jackie.
Oh, thank
you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. This has been great fun, and thank you for supporting the 50th Street Studio and supporting Jackie. And good night.
And Keith, yeah.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you. That was so nice.